there is no good resolution to this case. I could send you to prison for 18 months, and you can have a judgment for $58,257.21 that would leave Mr. Gidley chasing that money the rest of his life. I can put you on probation and with the idea that you're going to pay back the restitution.
Jonathan Williams pled guilty to stealing over $58,000 while working as a bookkeeper. His lawyer, family, and pastor asked Judge O'Donnell for community control so he could keep working to repay it. The business owner described damage no check could repair, leaving the court to choose between prison and restitution. The following is the full hearing as we watched it on our live morning show. And funny note, we were all so caught up in it that I didn't even realize the camera on me froze just over halfway through. The audience didn't either, and they're usually really good at telling me if something isn't right. So if anything, that should tell you just how compelling this hearing is. My name is Dan. This is the Courtroom Files.
Ms. Tuttle?
Thank you, Your Honor. We are present this morning in the case of the State of Ohio versus Jonathan Williams, case 26-CR-782. The defendant is present, represented by counsel, attorney Dan Williams. We're here today for the purposes of a sentencing hearing. On June 16th, the defendant pled guilty to a one-count information, that being theft, a felony of the 4th degree. A pre-sentence report and victim impact statement have been completed. The parties have had the opportunity to view that pre-sentence report and are prepared to proceed with sentencing today. There is a joint recommendation for community control sanctions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. As was indicated at the time of this plea, a joint recommendation of community control was made to the court so long as Mr. Williams continued to abide by the terms and conditions of his bond. To date, he has done just that. A number of documents have been submitted to the court in advance of the sentencing hearing, including the sentencing memorandum of the defendant, a number of letters of support on behalf of Mr. Williams, as well as the pre-sentence report and investigation. We'd ask that those be incorporated into the record at this time, Your Honor. Your Honor, when viewing the principles and purposes of felony sentencing, it is our position that a non-residential community control sanction would be sufficient in this instance to both punish Mr. Williams without imposing any unnecessary burden on any state or local resources. As the court is aware, Mr. Williams has no prior criminal history of any kind. This was quite frankly a crime of opportunity that was brought about by mounting debt that Mr. Williams felt he could no longer manage, and we feel this occurred in certain circumstances that are unlikely to happen again. I don't think there's any question that he's genuinely remorseful for his conduct, as evidenced by his admission to his employer and also to the police. He understands completely that he violated the position of trust that he was put in, and the detriment that this has caused Mr. Gidley's business. He's asking the court not to view him or his character in the narrow lens of this particular conduct, but to reflect on a lifetime of good deeds and service to others. Mr. Williams is a well-regarded member of both his community and the church. I think the letters of support that you've received reflect a man who has lived the vast majority of his life in service to other people. Understandably, it's hard to reconcile the person that's been described in those letters with the person who committed the conduct that occurred here, but that is what we're asking the court to do. Those that trust and know Mr. Williams best believe he's fully capable of redemption, and that's what we are asking this court today, is to put him in the best position and put him on the best path forward to achieve that redemption, which most importantly is going to include making Mr. Gidley whole again. Mr. Williams is gainfully employed. He's always maintained steady employment throughout his life. The only position he's going to be in order to make restitution in this case is if he continued to work. We feel that a non-residential community control sanction, which would include an extensive period of house arrest or other non-residential sanctions, would put him in the best position in order to make the victim whole in this case, Your Honor. So we'd ask to take all these things into consideration. Mr. Williams would like to address the court, and we have two others that are here with him today, his wife Kylie Williams and Pastor Ken Wright, who would also like to address the court, Your Honor.
Well, what order do you want to go in?
We'll have Mr. Williams proceed first.
Mr. Williams, what do you want to tell me before I impose sentence?
Thank you, Your Honor, for allowing me to speak. First, I want to say to Brian and the entire LBL family that I'm truly sorry for my poor choices and everything that you've had to go through over the last few years due to my selfishness. I humbly and genuinely ask you for your forgiveness. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Your Honor, with a contrite heart, I am deeply sorry for my actions. I know that what I've done is wrong and unacceptable. There's no excuse for my actions, but I know the question remains, why did I do it? There are a few reasons I did what I did. I had accumulated debt throughout the years, and we were trying to purchase our first home. We weren't able to get a loan without first improving my credit score and paying down some of the debt. With all of the other bills still going on and my kids growing up and needing things for school and sports, I felt helpless. So I started depositing cash from my job into my personal account to stay on top of bills and to pay down debt in order to get approved for a home for my family, believing that I would pay it back. This is an insane way of thinking, and I'm embarrassed to even say it out loud. From the time I was a very young child, I've worked very hard to provide for my family. My first job was when I was 10 years old, where I would give money to my mother to help buy groceries for my sister and me. I've worked and served every community I've been a part of since. It's hard to believe that just a few years ago, I was walking the hallways of the West Wing and the White House working in the Trump administration, and now I'm standing before you today asking for mercy to be extended for the wrong I have done. Living under the weight of my choices the last 2 years have been very eye-opening and yet very challenging. I've realized that I can't always do things on my own. I can't just figure things out. I've learned that I need help when times get tough and not to lean on my own understanding or to take matters into my own hands. I know there are consequences for my actions. I try to teach my kids this every day. Every day that I get to either drop them off at school or text them, I tell them 4 things. 1, I love them. 2, be a good leader, make good choices, and treat people the way you want to be treated. I failed at my advice to my children, but I pray that they will learn from my mistakes. Today, as I stand before you, I know the possibilities of my sentence, but I'm asking you to show me mercy. I'm asking that you give me a second chance at life and that I won't be separated from my kids and family. I now have multiple jobs that I'm working, and including bus driving, providing tech support online for ministry in Arizona, freelance photography, music director at my church, driving for Amazon, and picking up extra shifts. I need to work to provide for my family and also to offer restitution to those I've hurt. My goal in life is always to give more than I receive. Thank you for considering my request and hearing my heart.
Good morning, Your Honor. First off, I too would like to say how sorry I am to you, Brian, and to your family and to the company for how our family has hurt you. And I also ask your forgiveness. Your Honor, I would like to tell you a bit about my husband. We've been happily married for 22 years in September. We have 4 beautiful children together who we left at home to protect their emotions. Jonathan didn't have a dad growing up. But he did have a grandfather who imparted a good amount to him, but for the most part, he didn't have an example of how to be a dad. But that didn't stop him from becoming the most amazing dad to our children. He literally would lay his life down and does anything he can to give them the life and upbringing that he did not have. Jonathan is an extremely hard worker. He is continually working hard to provide for his family, not only for our needs, but for our wants. What Jonathan did, taking money here and there, was only in the thought of his family. While it is definitely not an excuse, it was his motivation, and yet it was still wrong. Your Honor, the last couple of years I've watched Jonathan dread this day and psychologically has been in bondage ever since. I have watched him become depressed, his body tense with stress, crippled in fear and dread. This is not how Jonathan usually is. He's the life of the party, smiling, being silly, and then the last couple of years those traits have been few and far between. I still remember very clearly the day he told me what he had done. He started off with, "I have to tell you something really serious, and if you want to leave our marriage, I will understand." Of course, I have stood by him together, and we have journeyed this struggle of what's to come. We have chosen each other through sickness and in health. Even though all of this, I am still honored to be married to Jonathan, because the situation isn't who he is. He's a godly man, a faithful husband, and a wonderful father and friend to so many. He leads our church in worship every week and is dearly loved by our church. Many of the members of our family and our church have been supportive in praying for Jonathan as he navigates today. Your Honor, thank you for hearing me.
Good morning, Your Honor. Thank you for the opportunity this morning. Past 5 years, I've had the privilege of pastoring Jonathan and his family. And during that time, I have found that Jonathan has consistently volunteered his time, his talents, serving in a variety of capacities within our church. He's always been willing to help wherever there was a need, often without being asked. His wife and children are also active volunteers and members of our church. They serve in various ministries and positions. When Jonathan shared with me what had taken place, he did not attempt to excuse nor justify his actions. He admitted his wrongdoing, expressed genuine remorse, and even offered to step away from serving in the church if that was necessary. He understood that his actions had consequences, and he was willing to accept the responsibility for them. I was genuinely shocked to learn of this offense because it stands in stark contrast to the man I've come to know over these past 5 years. While I do not condone or minimize what Jonathan has done, I can honestly say that this is not the character he has consistently demonstrated in our church community. In my experience, he has been generous with his time, dependable, and committed to serving others. Life is often marked by chapters. Sadly, this chapter of Jonathan's life includes a painful failure and a decision that has serious consequences. But I do not believe that this chapter defines the entirety of his life, nor his future. I believe he is sincerely repentant and desires to rebuild his life, restore trust, and move forward as a better husband, father, and member of our community. I respectfully ask that as you determine an appropriate sentence, that you would consider extended mercy where possible, particularly in the light of Jonathan's family and his ability to continue to earn a living while making restitution and rebuilding his life. Whatever the outcome, I know Jonathan is prepared to accept responsibility for his actions and begin the difficult work of moving forward with integrity. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. When did you start taking this money?
I don't remember the exact date. It was probably in August or September 23.
How long had you been working there by that point in time?
So I had been working for the company, I think, for over a year in various capacities. I started as a cashier, retail cashier in the Chardon location, and moved to the Middlefield location and kind of worked my way up as a manager. And then when the person that was in my position before had resigned, Brian had asked me to take over that since I had a little bit of experience with QuickBooks. But it was just, I got that position because I worked hard and I was committed to helping the company. And so I think I was there for a little over a year before I went to this position.
And how long were you in the position before you started to steal?
I don't know the exact, but it was probably three or 4 months.
And what prompted you to make that decision?
I don't know, Your Honor. It was trying to buy a house and not having the resources, and that's really the only thing that we've wanted to do is purchase a home, and having that there with no oversight. I don't know why I thought that I could take it and then put it back, but that was my thinking.
Okay, so take me through the mechanics of how you manipulated the records such that it went undetected for a substantial period of time.
So the way that the system works is when there's a sale on the store end, the way that it got set up was there was a middle software, you know how to explain, software that connects the two together, and you decide what transactions come through to the QuickBooks. And so when I had started to take that money, I knew that if I didn't select certain transactions, then they wouldn't come through to the QuickBooks side of it.
So was that always cash?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what was the rough percentage between cash and non-cash that came in?
I don't know that number. There was way more checks and credit cards daily than we had cash.
Okay. So how often were you taking the cash?
I'm not sure. It was just whenever I got really low on our personal. So if I were to give an amount, maybe once or twice a month.
And over what period of time once this started?
Maybe 8 months, 6 months, 6-8 months.
Okay. How much did you take?
So the report says 53,000. Was it 53? 50, the report says $58,000.
$257.21.
Yes, sir. I can't argue with that number because we didn't do our own audit, but it seems like a lot, especially with our lifestyle of living. But I'm not going to argue that number.
Well, I'm not asking you to argue. I'm asking you. You're the one that was there.
Yes, sir.
You're the one that knows what you took, when you took it, how
Yes,
much you took, how often you took.
Yes, sir.
So you tell me what you think the accurate amount is that you took.
When I originally confessed it to Brian, I did not think that it was more than $10,000 to $12,000 because of that time frame and what we used in our personal. So that's what I originally thought, and then when that number came back, I was just floored that it was that amount of money in that amount of time.
And what was your plan to pay it back? You said that you took it with the intent of paying it back. How were you going to do? How were you going to manipulate QuickBooks? What was your plan to manipulate QuickBooks to put that money back?
I don't think I had a plan.
Why not?
I don't know, sir.
Okay. Was there a time when you were not paying sales tax or other taxes to the state of Ohio that were supposed to be forwarded?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When did that start? Around the same time frame?
I don't remember. I know that I had an issue with it before all of this started because of my lack of understanding of how to do the work. And so it was an ongoing thing with the sales tax.
What notification did you get from the Department of Taxation that the business was delinquent in their tax return?
I received a letter.
Okay. The letter came to you?
Yes, sir.
And when you got the letter, what action did you take?
I began to try to figure out again how to calculate those taxes for the company, because I'm the only one that's doing that.
All right. Did you talk to Mr. Gidley about that?
Not directly. We did have a couple conversations about taxes, but when it got delinquent, I did not talk to him about it. I tried to figure it out myself.
Okay. Why didn't you talk to him about it?
I was just afraid.
Afraid of what? Afraid of being discovered?
No, sir. I was afraid of losing my job or for not being able to do my job in that sense.
All right. Well, what communication did you then have with the Department of Taxation about these issues?
They told me I had a certain amount of time to get the money in, and so I started to work on how to get that in, and then they said that I couldn't do. Normally it's by check, I think it was, but I couldn't do a business check. I had to do a cashier's check.
Okay, and was it a installment payment or was it full payment? What was it? What did they demand?
I can't remember. I think that by a certain time, because it's been a couple years ago, by a certain time I had to have a certain amount paid to keep the sales tax, not certificate, the sales tax license active.
Okay, and what efforts did you take to make those payments to the Department of Taxation?
I started to make sure that we could have money in the bank account to do the cashier's check, and so I got a cashier's check and I mailed it to them. So that's what I did with that.
Okay, at some point it stopped, right? Those payments stopped.
Only after I was finished with the job. I mean, I don't know what happened after I finished with the job.
Okay. Because the red tag got slapped on the door, said you're closed because you don't pay your taxes. Were you gone by that time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, when did you leave that job?
Was it May of 24, I think?
So suffice it to say, Mr. Gidley had no knowledge of this delinquency when you left, right?
Yes, sir. Well, I don't know if it was when I left. He did mention to me that he saw the check that was sent to the tax people. So I can't remember if that was as I was leaving or afterwards.
Okay. And the consequences of that aspect of the Department of Taxation slapping that bright piece of paper on the door was devastating to that business, wasn't it?
I would assume so, sir.
Well, clearly, right? You guys are closed because you don't pay your taxes. So I guess the question is, why would a customer ever come back there again? if, first of all, the store is closed, and second of all, they're determined to be a tax scofflaw. Why would anybody come back there? So here's the thing that puzzles me from listening to you, to your wife, and to the pastor, is that you present a very you've presented a very conscious effort to say how you've spent many, many years helping others, volunteering for others, doing good in your church and in your family, and you're robbing this guy blind. How does that get squared? How does one compartmentalize their life so that they live two completely different lives? Explain that to me.
I can't, sir. Sorry. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, you had a lot of time to think about this,
Yes, sir.
so you should have an explanation. I mean, there are alternate explanations. Okay? One of them could be maybe you've been conning the pastor all this time. Maybe you've been conning your church all this time. That's one reasonable explanation. But see, the problem is your request to me is to have mercy or lenience toward you for your actions, when you showed no mercy or lenience toward Mr. Gidley's company. See, taking responsibility is a nice phrase that's often used in this place. And most people really, they like to say it, and very few often mean it. Because people like to say they take responsibility when they plead guilty, and then when I sentence them, they don't like the sentence, so that tells me they're really not taking responsibility for their actions. Okay? So, do you have any any understanding on how you have wrecked a company that started from nothing 50 years ago? Do you have any, can you even grasp what you did? All in the space of a year, a couple of years, whatever it was, all in the space of a year or two, it took to destroy what took 50 years to build up from nothing. Now, the effects are obvious. They should be obvious to everybody. Okay? But I've gotten a little bit more of a flavor of it with some details that I was provided through the victim impact statement. Okay? But these folks, Mr. Gidley's parents, start this thing from nothing, build it, continue to build it, turn it over to their son. Throughout that process, they employ some people, and then more people, and then more people, 3 locations, and boom, gone. And it's gone because of your selfishness. Okay? And it doesn't matter, certainly doesn't matter to me, your explanation for the selfishness. Okay? Because it's presented in the light of, I was trying to provide for my family. We came into this job over our heads, and it just got worse. It's an explanation. It's inconsequential as far as I'm concerned. Okay. Because you have brought misery upon these folks. So one of the biggest questions is how are you going to pay that back? How is that going to happen?
Yeah. So what our hope is, our plan is when I start working next week, we're going to take at least $500 from our check in the month to put that towards restitution, as well as in a few months we'll pay off one of our cars that we've had for a while, and that $500 payment will also go, instead of going to pay the car, it will go directly to pay restitution. And so we're hoping from anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month to go towards paying it back. And I'll do as much work as I can to do extra work, weddings, political events, driving for Amazon Flex, everything. I'll work hard to financially pay it. I know that I can't restore what I've broken.
Two things within the last half hour. Lead me to question whether you really take responsibility for it. First, you're talking about you know the process by which that you implemented to steal their money. You know what the process was. Apparently you were pretty good at it because it went undetected for a while. Okay. And so you know how much you took. You know the ballpark of what you took. And it wasn't 5,000 or 10,000. Okay. So you seem to want to minimize the depth of your attack. Am I wrong or am I right?
Sir, I don't want to minimize it at all.
I know maybe you don't want to, but you seem to be. Consciously, subconsciously, you're talking about a couple of $100 once a month or twice a month. That don't add up.
Right.
Don't add up. Not even close to adding up.
Right.
And Mr. Gidley didn't come up with $58,271.21. A forensic audit by BCI came up with that number through the books, through the objective look at the books. So you seem to want to minimize this as to the amount. So, on the one hand, as Mr. Williams, your attorney, indicated, and the pastor indicated, and your wife indicated, and you indicated, you don't want this theft to define you, right?
Yes, sir.
This isn't walking in a business on the spur of a moment and robbing a place. This is a thought out, concerted effort, as Mr. Williams indicated, a theft, an opportunity that was presented to you, that you worked for quite a period of time before it all imploded. How much of that money did you pay back?
I haven't.
Right. I mean, when you were working there, your intent was to pay it back. So in the context of when you were working there, how much did you pay back?
I don't know how much. I know that I did put cash back. I don't know the amount, and it sounds stupid. I wasn't even tracking it, so I didn't think. Looking at it now, it's like, how would you know how much exactly? But I did put cash back. Inside of that, there were small times where I would use my own credit card to pay for things for the business. But
how do you reflect that in the QuickBooks entries then?
I say that again.
How would you reflect that payback in QuickBooks? Because I assume, I don't know how QuickBooks works, okay? But I presume that software is to make it easier to track things, so you're not writing on ledgers all the time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, probably like they were in 1975, okay? I presume it's easier, so there's a way to track things. So what did you do with the system to record these paybacks or credit card payments?
So as far as the cash goes, so I've got a drawer full of cash, from days or whatever, and then when I run what's called an end of day, whatever cash I'm depositing into the bank, I take those transactions in that middle software, and that adds up to what goes into QuickBooks. So nothing comes into QuickBooks unless you tell it to from the center software. So does that make sense?
No, but it doesn't matter if it makes sense, because
Okay.
whatever's purchased,
It doesn't automatically go
people
into
are
QuickBooks.
paying for.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so whatever is purchased for $25, there should be a corresponding payment of $25, right?
Yes, sir.
There's an indication of what was purchased, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you throw back another $50 because you're feeling bad that day in cash, what was a corresponding purchase?
So the thing is, when someone says $25 cash at the store, it doesn't go into QuickBooks unless that center software, it goes into that center software and it says $25. If I click that $25, then that goes into QuickBooks. Now that's recorded. So if I've got $100 that I'm going to deposit, then in that center software, I can click $100 cash, and it comes into QuickBooks, and it matches that $100 deposit.
Okay. How much do you figure you paid back?
I don't know, sir.
Ballpark for me how much you figure well, first of all, how often did you pay back?
Not very often.
Okay. A half a dozen times? A dozen times? 2 dozen times? What?
Maybe 6 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you paid back, how much generally were you paying back?
It was a small amount, maybe $100, $200 at a time.
Okay. See, I don't know that I believe you when you say that.
It's true, sir. I promise you.
Look, listen. I don't know. I'm just telling you that I don't believe that.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else you want to say?
No, sir.
Ms. Tuttle?
Your Honor, Brian Gidley wishes to speak at this time.
Good morning, Judge O'Donnell. Thank you for the time. Appreciate your time reading through this case. Obviously, reading through the impact statements. A little bit about myself before I get into some of the things I want to say. I'm a second-generation owner. My parents started the company when I was a kid to provide better for our family. I understand what it means to provide better for your family through hard work. I'm speaking on behalf of myself, my wife, Delynn, my mom and dad, both of my adult children, and all the folks you see behind me who've been impacted, as well as those who would not and could not attend this morning that were impacted by Mr. Williams' actions. When my parents started the business in 1975, it was in my grandmother's basement. They worked hard. We bought a house. We moved it into our basement. We then worked for years on weekends and evenings, because my dad worked a full-time job, as a family, to provide to where we could have a pool in the backyard, things of that nature. When I graduated college, I had a choice. I could go out into the real world and work, or go in the real world of business. I made the decision to go into business with my parents and take the business over. That was 1991. I took that business with my mom and dad next to me, and we grew it through 16-hour days, 7-day work weeks, and an immense amount of work to build. In that time, they taught me to work hard, treat people right, and always earn your keep. They taught me that respect is earned and never given. A little bit about myself in addition to what I've said. You had mentioned the 3 locations. When I took over in 1991, we were still in the house. We moved out. We bought other small businesses. We then we bought Shetler's in Middlefield in 1999. And we grew that through hard work and our team. When I say we, I mean our team. The people that we employ are not employees, they're associates. They're teammates and their family. And they know that by the way we act and how we treat them. Through the time, my entire adult life has been dedicated to building a legacy that my dad and mom started. I wanted to leave it to my kids and have the opportunity for them if they wanted it. But I also understand if they don't, it's still their choice. That choice has been decimated by Mr. Williams. I value and respect deeply my associates. They're like family to me. I'm up sleepless nights worrying about payroll. I'm in early. I work late. I come in on the weekends. I do whatever it takes to make sure they have a paycheck and they have an opportunity and they have security. That security was ripped away from them when this happened. The companies, respectively, have been in business 50 years in Painesville, 94 years in Middlefield. That company, that location has been absolutely decimated as well. When you can't buy inventory and you have people who come in and your store shelves are empty and you have pink State of Ohio Department of Taxation things on your window, word travels fast in the Amish community, and they don't forget. Competition has moved in. We no longer are the only company there. There's 3 of us now. We've survived as a company through the other owners who started that, the Great Depression, recessions, fierce competition, the COVID-19 pandemic, which decimated our sales in our Painesville location, but we nearly have not survived what Mr. Williams did to us in ruining our reputation. His actions shattered our cash flow. It jeopardized 16 associates' livelihoods, ruined our reputation that we worked 50 plus years as a family to establish. In order to keep the doors open, myself, my wife, and my parents cashed in money. We influxed as much money as we could because I had a decision to make. I had to look all these people in the eye, I had to look my parents in the eye and say, we were stolen from. We don't have enough money to make payroll. Why, Brian? Weren't you watching? Yes, I was watching. But when you implement a system that you're the one that implements it in the middle and you manage it, it makes it a lot easier and a lot harder to catch. Our accountants didn't catch it. I caught it. I caught it in February of 2023. After having a great year in February of 2024, having a great year in 2023, I gave back to our associates. I gave them a Christmas party. I gave bonuses. I cashed in points on credit cards to give them gifts. We closed for the day. I gave back everything. Mr. Williams took part in that. All the while knowing he had already stolen tens of thousands of dollars at that point. He knew it and the deposits showed it. I don't buy that he gave the money back. I'd love to see the receipts on that. Mr. Williams alluded he had been with the company just over a year. He was there a year and 7 months when he was promoted into this position. He did work in our facility. He started part-time, worked to full-time. I continually do this with my team. I give our associates opportunities. I also trust. If I have to watch over everything you do, I'm never going to get the opportunity to build the business, to give more security to my team. So I trust him. I trust my team. They're standing behind me. Former and current associates are here today because of the impact of Mr. Williams. He was promoted to the store manager. Little did I know in doing this, he learned the ins and outs of our business. He was able to figure out what we were teaching him. Little did I know was going to be used against me and against all of us. Our bookkeeper at the time had a great opportunity. She called me and said, I don't want to leave, but this is a great opportunity closer to home. The position became available. Mr. Williams had experience. I offered it to him. He accepted it. He started in that position in training the last 2 weeks of May of 2023. He took it over full-time around June 2nd of 2024. Money started missing in July of 2023. It was May of 2023 he was offered the position. The money started missing in July of 2023, small amounts. It went undetected. It was very good how he did it until I caught on. And then once I caught on, I figured it out very fast. He took what was taught to him. Our former bookkeeper gave him notes, gave him everything. When he says he wasn't trained, it's not accurate. She probably gave you a statement. She trained him the entire time and said, here's my number, call me if you need anything. She followed up because she cared about me. She cared about our team. She followed up with Mr. Williams to say, do you need anything? No, I'm good. Do you have any questions? No. When he did, he may reach out 1 or 2 times. It came to January of 2024, and she went in the books to help him reconcile some stuff, and she noticed that the taxes had discrepancies. And she said, does Brian know about this? And Jonathan assured her I did. That is not accurate. That is not accurate. This is the person that I am. I personally loaned Mr. Williams money when he first came aboard. He came to me and said, I don't have enough cash during the holiday time. I have something, I have a bill I have to pay, whatever it was. I took money out of my pocket and I loaned it to him. And I told him it was a loan. He came back to me and said, I'd like to pay that loan back. And I said, it's forgiven. I appreciate what you do. That's who I am. I gave him the flex time he needed. He was a photographer. He asked if he could do the photography on the side. I said, absolutely. As long as your job is done, I am flexible. You can work Sunday evening so you can have Monday and Tuesday off to be with your family. I don't care. Just make sure your job is done. He was given so much opportunity. I included him in a new business venture I had and said, how can we help build your photography business local to where he could spend time with his family? All the while, he's stealing from me. It's unbelievable. It's just absolutely unbelievable. He just didn't steal money from me and my family and our team. He stole from our vendors 50-year relationships down the tubes, credit pulled. You're on COD. When I have three suppliers, 2 of them say, we're not selling to you. One says, I'll sell to you, and then raise their price 30% to me because it was a risk. How do I argue that? I understand it. I wasn't able to pay my bill. I had to pay the price. I didn't take salary for months on end after putting all my money back into the company. Meanwhile, Mr. Williams gets to live his life, do what he wants, post on social media how God is great and all this stuff. I am a man of God, I do believe, but you can't hide behind that shield, Your Honor. While Mr. Williams was doing all this, I worked 16-hour days, 12-hour days, 6 and 7 days a week. My wife, who lost her job in February of 2023, came to work, February 2024, came to work for the company to help us dig out. Instead of her looking for a job, she's working to help save. Well, really, it was like, why are we saving this? It was absolutely decimated. Your Honor, I'll tell you why I saved it. It's those folks right there. When I have to look them in the eye and say, on my watch, he stole from me, I am not giving up on you. And I didn't, and I haven't. Yes, we had to close our one location. Yes, I had to sell the other businesses. And the Middlefield location is suffering immensely. The day came in June of 2024 when one of my teammates came into my office and said, Brian, there's 2 guys with guns in the lobby. I said, excuse me? Gives me the business card, Department of Taxation. They say they're here to close us down. She brings them in the conference room, and I sat there for 4 hours with them, explaining, this is news to me. I did not know. I knew there were cashier checks because that's how we let Mr. Williams go. He actually resigned, but we had locked him out of everything on a Saturday in early May. May 4th to be exact. We locked him out because we finally had enough proof. Working with the City of Painesville Detective Bureau, our insurance company, our attorney, they all said, when I found this in February of 2024, they said, Brian, we need more evidence. So I had to sit there and watch him steal the money, watch the money come in at the store, because I have checks and balances. I have black and white proof that this amount of cash came in and it never made it to the bank. Tens of thousands of dollars a month. Gone. The BCI unit, I gave them all the evidence. They came up with the number. I didn't. You had said that. They took a long time to go through it. It's accurate. As far as just the cash. He manipulated my books. He manipulated QuickBooks. He put charges in there, and that's how he got caught. Because I know my books. I've been doing this 40 years. And when I see an even number put in for repairs and maintenance of $2,400, I know that's not accurate. Nobody has a bill for that amount of money. It's $2,412.16. So that was the red flag that I finally was able to unravel it. When they closed my doors, they told me I had to pay that day over $20,000 in back taxes and penalties. And they were not leaving. They had the notice on the door. I still have a picture of it. They said they had agents on their way to our other locations to close them down. The effects were absolutely devastating. And I had to deal with it. I was left with the mess. He wasn't. He quit. He ran. Working with him for weeks was so painful. My wife and I fought. She came in. She says, how can you stand watching him knowing he's stealing? And she's right. And I said, honey, you've got to stay the course. The Detective Bureau, everybody said this is what you need to do to catch him. I said, I already have 6 months of evidence. Why do I need 2 more? Meanwhile, the money's just going like this. The straw that broke the camel's back was in late March when he came to me and told me we couldn't meet payroll. And I knew at that point in time, he had stolen tens of thousands of dollars. And I said, something's not right. I'm going to go back to my accountant. And I said, I'm going to go back to the reconciliation at the beginning of the year, and we're going to find this. Do you know, through forensics, we found on his computer, he searched that afternoon, how to undo the year-end transactions? No excuse. I have so much more I can say, Judge, but Your Honor, but I'm just going to try and stay focused. While we endured this trauma for the last 2.5 years, during the time he was stealing, he was buying a house. He admitted that. I knew where the money went. I told everybody that was close to me. I know exactly where the money went. Cars for his kids, vacation in December of that year. All the while, I'm wondering, where's my money going? We're a very tight margin business. We don't make a ton of money. So when you take $58,000 and then you manipulate books and whatever else he was doing that the forensics didn't catch, it's detrimental. It's just absolutely detrimental. Over this time, he talks about him falling into depression. I'm a very outgoing person. I built this business with my family and my team by being out in public, going to see customers. I stopped going to see customers. I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to go to work and see them. I would work off hours so I didn't have to see my associates because I was embarrassed. I still haven't recovered from that, Your Honor. I go home at night and I don't want to see anybody or talk to anybody because I trust no one outside of my immediate family, which is here, because of his actions. And I'm a trusting person. You tell me you're going to do something, Your Honor, I trust you. And then you prove me wrong. I need to change that because I was taken advantage of. The effects, Mr. Williams left me and others holding the bag of his destruction that he created. I woke up in that February night, middle of the night, and I said, something's not right. And I spent all night, I was up all night. I woke my wife up at 4 o'clock in the morning and said, as I had papers and I had computer stuff everywhere, I said, I want you to look at this. Make sure I'm not missing something. She looked and said, something's not right. Called my accountant immediately. Started looking into it, figured it out. It was accurate. Going back to the biggest decision of my life, when you grow up in a company and you see it from the day it starts to what you built and then see it dismantled in 10 months, and then hear that he's willing or able to try and pay for $500 or $1,000 a month, Your Honor, I probably won't be around to see that. It took him 10 months to steal it. He should pay it back in 10 months. He's had 2 years of knowing he stole. Why hasn't he saved the money? Because he doesn't care. We spent tens of thousands of dollars hiring a forensic accountant. They're extremely expensive. And then when I finally was working with the courts, they said, we can have BCI unit do it. I had already spent the money. It's okay. It's what I had to do to save the company. I understand that. The vendors, the relationships. We're 2.5 years down the road. I am just now off of the state of Ohio's record for being watched every month. I can't remember off the top of my head where they put me, but it was the high-risk unit. I couldn't be late on a payment. Every dime and penny had to be accounted for. And if I missed 1 month, if it was 11 months in and I missed a month, it reset for another 12 months. Mr. Williams doesn't have to deal with that every day. The pressure on its own is enormous. To add insult to injury, during the time Mr. Williams was stealing from me and we found this, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. So instead of me being able to be in the moment with her and my dad, I have to balance 2. My stepdaughter's getting married a month later. My wife's happiest time ripped away from Mr. Williams' actions. And he wants mercy? Where's our mercy? The trust we placed in a business associate was shattered by Mr. Williams. His actions did not merely steal the money, he eroded nearly a century of work. 100 years almost in Middlefield. Gone. The name is been dragged through the mud. We had a bustling store. We don't have that anymore, Your Honor. We have a store that's trying to survive through every person that's here and the folks that are out there right now working that couldn't be here, trying to survive. And thank the Lord they stood by me. I've had folks that haven't, and I completely understand that. This is not their fight. They didn't sign up for this. They expect me to take care of it, and I failed them. In working 40 plus years and building these businesses, if anyone in this room knows about a small business, it's very hard to save for a retirement. Your retirement is your business. It is selling your business. That is your retirement that you built. It's gone. 40 years of my life, 50 years of my parents' retirement gone because of his actions. This statement cannot express the breadth and depth of harm caused by Mr. Williams' actions. Our priority is accountability, ensuring that such breaches of trust are addressed with the maximum consequences under the law, and that measures are in place to support victims and prevent future harm, not only from Mr. Williams, but other folks in the community. It's amazing, Your Honor, when I started, finally the word got out that LBL and Shetler was embezzled. I had 5 people reach out to me and say we were embezzled from. But you never hear that because nobody wants to talk about it. 3 of them never pursued it because they were embarrassed. Well, I'm not embarrassed. I know I missed. I know I trusted. I'm not embarrassed by that. I will never be embarrassed by trusting. I will always look behind my back now, moving forward. We seek a resolution that recognizes the extensive impact on our business, our family, and our community. And I want that to uphold the integrity of the justice system. We want to help prevent this from happening to unsuspecting employers, and that victims can begin to heal and move forward, rebuilding their lives. Victims that are sitting behind me and also at work right now, and those who have left our business, who I know, Your Honor, you received victim impact statements. They felt it that necessary to speak how it impacted them. We also request explicit acknowledgement of the financial devastation caused by his wrongdoing and destruction. Mr. Williams took 10 months to unravel nearly a century of blood, sweat, and tears and create devastation, and we respectfully request that he repay it in the financial side within the time frame that he stole it. He's already had a 2-year head start, Your Honor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Tuttle.
Thank you, Your Honor. As I previously stated, there is a joint recommendation for a period of community control sanctions here based on the level of the offense and the fact that the defendant doesn't have any prior criminal history. It's difficult in situations like this where a defendant doesn't have anything prior in their past, but the offense that they committed is serious. It's severe, it's repeated, and it's continual, that we need to balance that lack of criminal history with the harm that he caused. The defendant was in a position of trust. As Mr. Gidley stated, he was trusted by this business, and he had access to funds. He caused serious emotional, mental, and economic harm to Mr. Gidley and everyone that worked for the company, everyone that trusted him. And because of that, and because of his calculated and intentional and repeated behavior over months, there's a punishment element here that certainly needs to be met. Because of that, the state is requesting that the defendant serve a period of local incarceration and that it be a substantial period because his actions were substantial. The restitution amount here is $58,257.21. That's more than the defendant's yearly salary was working for this company. That's the amount of money that never made it to the bank. So if the defendant gave some money back or put some money back, that means that what he took originally was higher than that $58,000 number. I know that the defendant stated today that based on the lifestyle he lives, he doesn't think there was any way he took more than $10,000 to $12,000. The state provided his own bank records as part of discovery in this case. His own bank records showed that over that near 10-month period of time, he was going to his own bank, sometimes daily, and deposited over $36,000 in cash to his own account. That's what made it from his hands into his bank. There's $20,000 more in cash that never made it to the business account, and the defendant used for his own personal gain. Based on all of this, the state believes that a jail term is necessary to protect the public and others from this offender and to punish him for the crime that he committed. Thank you.
Thank you. I reviewed the pre-sentence report, the victim impact statement. I have listened to Mr. Williams, those who spoke on his behalf, Mr. Gidley. I've listened to the attorneys, and I have considered all the provisions in 29-29-11, 29-29-12, and 29-29-13. There is no good resolution to this case. I could send you to prison for 18 months, and you can have a judgment for $58,257.21 that would leave Mr. Gidley chasing that money the rest of his life. I can put you on probation and with the idea that you're going to pay back the restitution. Okay. Now, regardless whether I take Route 1 or Route 2, that will never make Mr. Gidley or that business whole. Even if you wrote a check, cashier's check for that full amount today, that doesn't put them in the position they were in. Nothing ever will. Nothing ever will. Okay? And the problem here, Mr. Williams, is that you're a manipulator. Now, you certainly, from the time you went to work for Mr. Gidley, you were a manipulator because you manipulated him the entire time you lived there, or worked there, rather. Okay, the entire time. Little by little, you manipulated him, his family, in that business. And I mean, you shake your head no that you didn't. You did. Okay? Clearly you did. You found a way to get away with what you got away with to the tune of $58,000 for a substantial period of time. And then, when you were called on it by Mr. Gidley, your response was to go back to try to manipulate records retroactively. Okay? So the entire time you worked at that place of employment, you were a Class A manipulator. And as I sit here and listen to all this today, and particularly you're still manipulating. Okay? Because you talked about an amount that you didn't think was anywhere near that, but Ms. Tuttle just indicated there was an influx of $36,000 in cash to your bank account during this time period. Okay? So you know full well what you did, and you try to minimize it now. And that, sir, is not taking responsibility. That is trying to parse things, which means you're evading responsibility. Okay? So now, Whether you were a manipulator before that, I don't have the slightest idea. Okay, my guess is you were. This wasn't a sudden behavior that you learned when you went to work for Mr. Gidley. Okay, so my guess is, to some degree and in some sense, you've been manipulating people for a good long time. Okay. So now the question is, what's the appropriate punishment? The only thing, the only possible thing, positive that you can do going forward for the benefit of Mr. Gidley and that business is to pay them back the money you stole. But like I said, that ain't the half of it. Okay, they're devastated for the remainder, and there's no way around that. Okay, and boy, it didn't take long for you to destroy what had been built up. And I don't know that you grasped that before you walked into it, or you grasp it now, or you'll ever grasp it. Okay, because you and your wife and the pastor are focused on your redemption. I think Mr. Williams or somebody early on said that for me to give you the opportunity to redeem yourself. I ain't in the redemption business, okay? It's not my thing, okay? So in consideration of everything, I'm going to accept the joint recommendation of council. I'm going to place you on community control for 5 years. You're going to serve 180 days in the Lake County Jail with credit for 2. Now, I am going to permit you work release, and the only reason I'm going to permit you work release is to pay them back. Because they have to get paid back. That's the only justice they can get from this case, is to get paid back. You're going to have no drugs or alcohol, and you'll be screened regularly. You're to pay restitution in the amount of $58,257.21 to the victim. And you're the one that suggested that you're going to pay it back of at least $500 a month currently, possibly up to $1,000. So in the immediate future, I'm going to order that it be at the rate of $500 a month, which I'm going to review, because you are going to do this by work release. But we will review that order We'll review the amount of that order. At a hearing that will take place on October 28th at 11:30 a.m. And we will review it periodically to ensure that progress is being made. There's no realistic possibility, absent some unusual happening, that you're going to pay back $58,257.21 within 10 months. You're to have no contact with the victims. nor cause anybody to have any contact with them. All your dealings with restitution will be made through the probation department. You are to maintain throughout this period of community control full employment. And you're going to pay the costs and supervision fees. Ms. Randazzo, any other terms you think are applicable?
Would Your Honor like me to know?
Yes.
Nothing further.
You are going to get the mental health evaluation and follow all recommendations. Mr. Williams, do you understand the terms of your community control?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions about them?
No, sir.
If you violate, the state will file a motion to terminate your community control, and if I find you violated, then you face potentially 18 months in prison. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything else, Ms. Tuttle?
Your Honor, would you like me to put that next court date in the order?
Yes.
Okay, nothing else, thank you.
Mr. Williams?
Just as it relates to the work release, Your Honor, obviously Mr. Williams had indicated there are a number of jobs he's working. Would this be specifically to his primary source of employment as a bus driver?
You're going to have to give me places of employment and times of employment, and the order will be fashioned in consideration of those things.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So when we were watching this live, we had a little bit of a debate in the chat about the defendant's crying and his overall reaction to things. And I'm curious to know what you think about that, and also what you think about how Judge O'Donnell handled the whole situation. So take a moment and let me know in the comments if you'd be so kind. And if you want to see what happened when another defendant stole from a trusted organization and then squandered the chance to repay it, check out the hearing that's on your screen right now. Thank you so much for watching.